Alright everybody, this will just be a short video to discuss what some things are that you'll need to know as you're going into the math history exam number 1. If you are testing in Commerce, you will need to go to Ferguson 308. That is our academic testing center. This is not the same as the testing office that's in the one-stop shop where they give state exams and things like that. This is a separate math department testing center, so make sure you're going to Ferguson, also known as Social Sciences, right? That's what that building is. So if you're in Commerce, that's where your test will be. Hopefully you have told me by now that you are planning to test there, and I will send your exams over and they'll have your name on it and they'll have my name on it. So you can tell the people there that it's got your name, it's got my name. It will be a white exam. I don't do colored paper whenever we're testing in the testing center unless it's a retest or a makeup or something from another class. We're not doing any of those in this class. So should have your name and Dr. Webster. So that's how they can locate your exam so that you can test. Okay, if you're not in Commerce, then hopefully you have given me that information, and in most cases I have already verified with your testing center how they want things to be done. If there's a form, I've already filled it out, I've already talked to them. I know that one of you wanted to test in Tarleton, I've already talked to them. One of you wanted to test at Indiana University, Pennsylvania, I've already talked to them. There's somebody in Dallas, I've talked to them. There's somebody in Midlothian, I've talked to them. So just different ones. I've already talked with most of those places, and hopefully you have, because in Commerce we don't schedule exams. It's a walk-in only kind of situation. But most outside testing centers want you to schedule an appointment. They have their very own rules. Most places, including A&M Commerce, want you to bring an ID with a photo. Some of them are very specific. I saw where some of them want you to bring your driver's license. For our purposes, your campus-wide ID is okay. But if they're, I don't know, in Pennsylvania, they may not care about your campus-wide ID. You may not have a campus-wide ID. You may need to use your driver's license, and that's perfectly okay. And I'm just going to say, abide by all rules, of course. So in Commerce, they want you to, all of your belongings will be taken from you upon entering. You'll get a pencil and maybe some scratch paper that they provide you, and a calculator. If you bring your own calculator to a testing center, you can expect your memory to be cleared. In your calculator to be cleared. That could be a problem for you if you have programs or notes or things like that in your calculator. So just be aware that that's what's going to happen. In Commerce, we have our own calculators, and we will gladly let you borrow one. I don't know about other locations, so you need to talk to them and see what it is that you need. For our purposes, you will probably almost certainly want a calculator on this test, because you're going to be doing things like base 60 math for the Babylonians, and you're going to be doing stuff like, I don't know, converting and all kinds of stuff. So you just a regular calculator. We're not doing anything crazy that'll require the graphing aspect, but you definitely need to be able to, I would say, add, subtract, multiply, divide, maybe take a square root. So be able to do those things in your calculator if you need one. All right. The other thing, this test, so abide by all of those testing center rules. Make sure you've got your things scheduled. If they require a testing fee, then be sure you pay your testing fee. And in fact, we're actually trying to put together a helpful list like what I posted on your testing procedures page where it has a list of here are some testing centers. And what we've done is we've added a column for testing fees. So if your testing center charges you a fee, and if you think about it, would you please send me a little email that says, hey, I tested at such and such, and they charged me, for instance, the one I know is $15 an hour for Pennsylvania. So, figure out what they're charging you, $25, $30, whatever it is. If you think about it and you want to, please send me that email, because we're going to compile that in our list so that other students can have that information in the future, because we just found that it's a cost that the students are paying, and of course you don't want to do that any more than you have to. So if one testing center near you charges $20 and another charges $30, and they're equally as far for you to drive, then maybe you want to go to the $20 one. So just having that information would be good for everybody. All right, so how long is the exam? All of the in-class exams are 1.5 hours. Okay. So this is exam number 1. It's 1.5 hours. Just for your benefit, your knowledge, the final exam is a 2-hour exam, right? So it will be a longer block. So you need to schedule for this test an 1.5-hour block. Other stuff. Can I use my notes? The answer is no. Okay. I will provide you with the 2/n table. I'll also have a bunch of formulas. So, for instance, on this test, I can almost guarantee you that you're going to have to reproduce the same proof of the Pythagorean theorem that Garfield had, President Garfield. So, in order to do that, you need the area of a trapezoid. You need that formula. Well, some of you may not have that formula memorized, and I don't feel that the goal of this class is to have you memorize that formula, so therefore I will provide it. It will be somewhere on the test. So if you're not sure, I'm just going to say there's probably a matching section, and somewhere on that test in the matching section there's also a list of formulas. It'll say something like, here are some things that you might find helpful. Area of a trapezoid, I don't expect you to memorize that. The splitting identity, I don't expect you to memorize that. I don't know what else, but in general, if there's a formula that I'm like, oh, I don't want to memorize that, then I'm not going to force you to memorize it. Now, I will say, I expect you to know the area of a triangle by now, right? So hopefully everybody knows the area of a triangle is 1/2 the height times the base, and I won't have to worry about you knowing that. But if there's some weird formula that we've done in here, maybe it's Gauss's formula or something like that, I will have that for you somewhere readily available so that you don't have to try to memorize that. It'll be okay. All right. What else? What's the testing window? That's what people have been asking me. And so I've put this in a couple of places in print. I'll put it again. I'm going to tell you now, for our purposes, the test will open on Monday and close on Saturday. Okay. Now, I'm putting it like that because some of you work during the day and the Saturday might be best, and some of your testing centers might be open on a Saturday. And so I'm going to let you have through Saturday just to maybe ease up your schedule a little bit. Maybe that'll help. However, if you're in commerce, are we open on Saturdays at the ATC? The answer is no. So you will not be able to test in commerce on Saturday. So don't do that. Don't anticipate that. The hours on at the ATC are Monday through Thursday, 10 to 6, and Friday, 10 to 3 at the ATC in Commerce. So don't expect to show up on Saturday and get to test because you're not going to be able to. And while I'm at that, let me say that you should also think about, for your own wonderful benefit, if you need an hour and a half and they close at Friday at 3 o'clock or whatever time your testing center closes. I know you may be in Pennsylvania or Tarleton or wherever, and maybe they close at 5. Do not show up at 4 o'clock and expect them to stay open late for you. It's an hour and a half test. So if you start testing at 4, if you schedule your appointment for 4, then they're going to try to kick you out by 5. That's just the way they're going to do. They're not going to stay open late for you. So don't do that. If you're scheduling appointments elsewhere and they close at 5, then make sure that the latest you schedule is 3:30. And honestly, I think you should be there by 3 because that gives you time for little mishaps in case, I don't know, all your pencils break and so it slows you down and so they give you a little extra time or something. But if you bump it right up to the wire, to the deadline, then there's not a lot of leniency that can come your way. So watch out for that. In Commerce, we don't take appointments. So guess what? This is the Friday before spring break. There could be other people in there testing. If there are only 16 seats and 5 of my students show up and there are 20 students waiting, then you may not be able to get in at 1 o'clock. You may have to wait around until some of those students clear out. So do not put it off to the very, very, very end of the day on the very, very end of the week and then be like, oh, they were full. Because guess what? That happens. So prepare. Be in advance looking at things. Okay. So I think that's most of the generic stuff for what to do for the test, how to prepare, how to be there. I want to talk just a little bit about the formatting of the test, because I will say that the math history test is probably a little bit different from maybe stuff that you've done in the past or seen. So for instance, how many of your graduate math classes have a matching section in it? Maybe not a lot, right? Okay, but for me, I use the matching section to do a lot of the mathematicians or a lot of the civilizations. So I might say something like, on one side it might say, this civilization focused primarily on generalizations and proofs, and on the other side it would match up with the Greeks, right? So the Greeks are the ones who did generalizations and proofs. So that might be the letter C, I don't know. And so it'll be a matching, you fill in the blank with a C and you're done, okay? Be aware on these things, a couple of things. I always put point value, either next to a problem or at the top, the header for that section. Okay, so be aware that matching, for instance, are only a half a point each. So do not spend a chunk of your time, a huge chunk of your time, working on matching problems, because there may be 10 matching problems on one page and they're only worth 5 points total. Okay, so don't spend the majority of your time there and then leave the proofs undone, because that's not going to make sense on your point wise, right? Okay, so there's a matching section. There's going to be some true-false questions. Be aware that on my true-false, you have to tell me why or justify your reasoning on all of them, whether they're true or false. So you need to give me an explanation. There's room there. It's not just circle true or false. And read the directions, because it will say, give an explanation for why you think it's true or false, no matter whether it's true or false. Sometimes it's really easy to say, oh, this is false because I can prove, I can give a counterexample. That's wonderful. But if it's true, sometimes it's very difficult to support your reason. So you have to say, well, this is true because here's the fact, or here's a picture that shows you the drawing of whatever. So whatever you need to do there to support your reasoning, but you need to support your reasoning. Okay. Multiple choice. By the way, normally true, false are 3 points each, and multiple choice are 3 points each. So pay attention to those point values. The thing about my multiple choice is read the directions again, because there may be more than one correct answer. Okay, I'm warning you now, but as you read through, it will say, select all that apply, or select everybody who did such and such. And so if you're doing that, then make sure that you check every answer. Don't just run up and say, oh, A is true, and stop. Because it could be that A is true, and B is true, and C is true. And so the answer is actually D, all of the above. Okay, so check everything that applies. Don't just stop because you find one that works. Or read very carefully. It might say which of these are not. For instance, I could say which of these are people who contributed to math history but are not mathematicians. Well, we talked about two for our purposes so far. It's been Constantine and Muhammad. So they were not mathematicians, but they did make make our math history a little more possible, so be aware of that, right? There will be short answer questions. Okay, short answers to me, maybe fill in the blank or something like that. Normally, generically speaking, short answers are worth 4 points. So I have in my grubby little paws a set of sample questions for Math History Exam 1. I will load this into D2L so that you can see them. And it's actually quite a long list. There's 16, and then there's a back 23, plus a little note at the bottom. So make sure you read it all very carefully. But as I look at number 1, it says, give at least 2 reasons why historians think we as humans originally developed the concept of numbers and or the need to write numbers down or record numbers. Okay, so to me, this is a short answer question. For instance, your short answer could be to keep track of the lunar cycles, or it could be to keep track of my harvest, you know, something like that. Come up with your own wording, your own reasons, whatever it is, but that's a short answer, okay? Maybe you can just answer it in a phrase. Maybe you can just fill in the blank, whatever. It doesn't require an essay. It doesn't require paragraphs worth of response. So short answer, those are worth 4 points. And yeah, so you'll see that. So short answer, what else do we got? We've got proofs and calculation problems. Normally, these are worth 5 points. Okay, sometimes proofs might be worth 6 points. We'll see. Kind of depends on how the points values add up. I haven't finished putting it together yet. If it's a calculations problem, you need to show your work so that you can get credit. If it's a proof problem, you need to show all the steps so that you get credit. I guarantee you the Garfield proof. I've mentioned it several times. We did it in class. So I will give you a diagram for that proof. I'll tell you what I'll do. I give the diagram for this one because I want us all to be working off the same picture so that I can follow very easily as you work through your proof. So the diagram will be given. Like I said, I'll give you the area of a trapezoid somewhere, that formula. And then you have to figure out that what he did was take the area of the 3 triangles, sum them up, and figure out that that's the same as the area of the trapezoid. So I think you can do that. You just have to kind of pay attention and go back over that proof. But I guarantee you that one's there. And then I also will tell you that there will probably be 1 or 2 trig identity type proofs. And y'all know what I mean by that. Those are the kind of easier proofs where you're just working on one side of an equation or the other side of an equation. It's not a crazy proof. It's not a proof by contradiction or anything like that. And it's not any of those really in-depth proofs that you had to do for homework. So they're not that bad. But 1 or 2 of those will probably be on the test. And then the last type of problems, well, the last type I mentioned earlier was essays. So I mentioned it, but I didn't write it down. Those are probably 6 to 8 points. It just depends. The difference there would be instead of just a little phrase or 2 that you have to write for the short answers, an essay, I expect paragraph type form answers. So they need to be complete sentences. It needs to be well thought out, and probably a paragraph or two. For instance, I might say, choose a mathematician and tell me why he's significant in the history of math. So something like that. I might give you more of a prompt than that, but just to give you an idea, it might be something like that. That's an essay question. The last thing, and again, this is something that's a little bit weird for us, is a map question. And normally these are a half a point, so they're not each. So they're not very, very valuable as far as points, but they're easy points that you don't necessarily want to lose. So the map questions, and I would say it would probably look like this. We have two major things on our maps. On our map so far, one is the civilizations, the other is the cities. So for instance, here in our case, the E stood for Egypt. So if I had the similar map and I had, I don't know, maybe a P there, okay, with a dot, and I said this is a civilization, off to the side I would have a spot that says civilizations, P equals, with a blank spot, and you would say, oh, that's in the spot where Egypt is. That's different than if I put a point up here and call that Q, and it's under cities, and I say Q equals, oh, that city there, you know that one's Alexandria, right? And this is not a geography class, so I'm not expecting amazing things. But we have used the map a lot to determine what's going on kind of in this Middle Eastern area and around the Mediterranean Sea. So I expect you to be able to kind of recognize some of the major things that we've got going there. I think we've got maybe 5 or 6 civilizations now that we've been working with. So maybe put all that together. All right, so that's kind of the formatting for the test, that you'll be able to see that and recognize it and be prepared for it, that these are not necessarily all going to be calculation problems where you just plug and chug like in a regular old math class, right? Or just proof problems like you might see in a graduate math class. Not so much on the theorem and proof part as it is about the applications and the understanding and making connections. That's what we're after. So here's what I will do for you. I'm giving this sample questions. I'm going to load that into D2L, and I will go through, okay, I mentioned number 1 there, give at least 2 reasons why historians think that we have developed numbers. Okay, I'm not going to write out your 2 reasons for you, okay? I will probably on that one say, find it in your notes or something like that. We spent the first week of school talking about why, probably longer than that, why we developed number systems, okay? I'm not going to spend a ton of time going through that. I expect you to know or be able to dig it out, okay? But on number 3, decompose the fractions into sums of unit fractions using these 3 methods, 2 over n table, splitting identity, Fibonacci's method. What I'm going to do for you there is I will work those out, and I will have what I consider the answer key, the solutions, and I will load that into D2L so that you can see, oh, that's what I should have done there. Now, remembering that, especially on the 2 over n table, this one can be very crazy because 15/17, if I use the 2 over n table there, maybe I have 2 over 17 and then 13 over 17, and so I substitute for the 2 over 17, but then I still have to deal with 13/17, right? So maybe there's some stuff I can do there. I'm probably going to split this into 1 over 17 plus 14 over 17, and then I'll do 7 groups of 2/17, and that's how I'm probably going to use my 2 over n table. Okay, but you don't have to do it that way. Some people might see something, I don't know, like here on the 7/9, you might see, oh, I can split that into 6/9, and that'll reduce down to 2/3, and then I can use the 2 over n table. Okay, so you might be able to do something like that. 6/9, 2/3, yeah, I didn't lie. Okay, and then you would still have the 1/9 hanging out, right? So you'd have to watch out for that. But yeah, I'm going to do one method here. If you do it a different method, it's okay. You can check your answer and make sure it adds back out to the original fraction. And as long as you use the method that I asked you to use at least once, you'll be okay, right? So, yeah, I will work the mathy problems. If there's a problem I feel like you should do on your own, for instance, number 11, know the specific Greek mathematicians that we now know by name. What are they most known for? How did they affect the history of math and contribute? How do we use their contributions in today's modern math processes and classrooms? I'm not answering that for you. Okay, I think that I've already answered that for you throughout the last 7 weeks of class. So please, please, please go look back through your notes and maybe watch some videos or something. Look through those PowerPoint slides that I loaded up for you. Look through the book and find your own answer for that, right? Okay, I think that's about it. So that's all I'm going to tell you. I will load these sample questions, because that's 25 minutes just about the test. So I will load these sample questions, and I will load what I consider to be the solutions key. And if you're still having problems, let me know. Notice, by the way, the very bottom here, it says, note, you need to know each of the following. You need to know mathematicians, you need to know civilizations, you need to know cities, and you need to know artifacts. I think we really only have about 3 artifacts at this time. We have the Plimpton 322, we have the Rhine Papyrus, and we have the Rosetta Stone. I don't think we have any other major artifacts going for us right now. So if you can keep those 3 artifacts separate, you're probably pretty good. But I think the one that most people will have a problem with is the mathematicians, the civilizations, and the cities. And what I'll probably do, just for your viewing pleasure, if it will make your life a little bit easier, is I'll try to make up a list of the mathematicians, just a blank list that I can put maybe a document form and put it into the D2L, and then if you'd like, you can download it and fill in the blank, so to speak. Hopefully you've been doing your own, whatever it is that you do to prepare for a test, your own study skills and that kind of thing. And so hopefully you already have on index cards or in your notes highlighted or whatever it is you do, all those mathematicians and why they're so amazing. Because, yeah, I just kind of expect you to be able to keep them all as straight as possible in your brain. So I think that's it. Good luck on the test next week. I hope it goes really, really well, and I will do my darndest to get you exactly where you need to be, review-wise, before we get there. All right, take care. Bye. Good luck.